Now, on the 15th of December 2021, the Minister of Education, that is Janet Kataha Museveni, announced that schools in Uganda will finally reopen, and that will be on the 10th of January 2022. Now, in relation to this particular conversation, many people have come out to support government schools, and conversations have been had in relation to how to support government schools and basically children to get back to school. However, the private schools seem to be left out of this particular conversation, including the fact that 20 billion was indeed promised to private teachers, while 2.4 trillion was promised to private schools. And apparently the government did come out to say that they do not have this money. So the big question this morning on the Twitter jabs is, what next for private schools? Who is going to help private schools come out of the mess that they're in this morning? And that is what we're going to be discussing on the Twitter jabs. And joining me at the center of this conversation is none other than Mr. Seru Alex Jones. And of course, he's the secretary at the National Private Education Institutions Association, also known as NIPEA. Good morning, sir. And thank you for joining us today on Sunrise at Sea.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity given to me, and also the opportunity given to private schools. Actually, I'm so much delighted to be here.
We're also excited to have you this morning.
Yeah, indeed. It's a great opportunity.
Well, we're glad that you actually accepted to
And
come.
actually, also, I'm so thankful that actually you've prioritized education as a pillar of national building. Yeah, so we understand that we cannot have a nation without education.
Okay.
That's why you see our motto is teachers, rather the nation is because we are.
Interesting. Yes. And just actually a correction there, he is the
Yes.
Secretary General at the National Private Education Institution Association, also known as NIPEA. So, Alex, this morning, our
Yes.
first question, even before we dive into the conversation, is Uganda ready for safe reopening of schools come January 2022?
First and foremost, warm greetings to our dear viewers. And above all, I'm delighted for the opportunity to address the nation over the pertinent issues concerning education.
Okay.
Over the question you've asked, that is Uganda ready for safe reopening? I would say it's 50-50.
Why?
One, we understand that our children have been at home almost 2 years in most classes.
That is indeed true.
And when we look at the 2 years that children have been at school, or rather at home, the Ministry of Education has not come up with a clear recovery plan for all the children in this country. I'll give an example. Look at children who are in private schools. What has government put in place to help children? There's 9 million children who are schooling in private schools. What has government put in place to say that really we entice these teachers who have been frustrated to come back to school to do normal business? Because look, actually, with the 350,000 private teachers in private schools, currently, we are not so certain how many of those ones are coming back.
Because actually the NPA did point out and say 30% of those teachers will actually not come back to teach.
And that was actually in September. So by now, we don't know how many frustrated teachers have left the profession. Actually, with the statistics we have, over 50,000 teachers have left the country. They have gone abroad
To look for greener pastures.
to look for greener pastures. So we don't believe that they may come back. Then also, when you look at the teachers who are within the country, many who have started up their own small businesses, petty businesses.
Yes.
Others have actually been involved in odd jobs. Since they've been getting an earning, I believe they may not be so much attracted to come back to schools. Unless when government has put up programs that will help to entice these teachers, and actually also these teachers getting actually motivated to come back.
Because then my question would be that private schools account for up to 70% of the schools we have in Uganda. So how best can actually government support private schools? Because that seems to be a major concern.
The very first thing, government need to appreciate that it is its role to provide education to all citizens of this country. according to the Constitution, Article 30. However, individuals came up, and more so, these individuals are natives of Uganda. They are citizens of Uganda. Majority of them, actually 99.9%, are citizens of Uganda. They came up to support their government because they realized the government does not have the ability to provide education to every Ugandan citizen. So they came up to help government. And in helping government, they are partners with government. So in this situation, where schools are in a dilemma, government would come up to support morally, financially, psychologically to the teachers, to the schools. We appreciate the president came up and he actually showed a concern and actually promised the 20 billion to teachers.
And the 2.4.
That was around July last year. And the 2.47 trillion shillings to private schools as a recovery fund to the schools, or a stimulus package to the schools. It's only unfortunate that as we are closing the year, actually closing 2 years almost, private teachers have not received the money.
And yet schools are reopening in January.
From January to 13th, when the president promised the 2.7 trillion, rather 2.4 trillion, we are going in we are almost making a year when that promise has not been fulfilled. Actually, government is saying, one, you are doing your private business.
So therefore, you should support yourself.
Support yourselves. Two, whoever is unable to reopen, look for business elsewhere. For us, what we shall buy of those schools. Actually, the government told us it has a lot of space for the 9 million children. Yet we all know the fact is the few schools that government have, they are overcrowded. So government has not appreciated the role played by private schools in promoting the education in this country. And that is the biggest dilemma we are in. Right now, if you look at a scenario, private schools were closed at the same time with government schools. Government has released capitation grant to government schools. Moreover, for the second time, to rehabilitate the depleted structures. Now look at the private schools.
But I am reliably informed that you are a part of the team that went to meet the president in regard to this particular package. What did he have to say, or what updates do you bring from that side?
Actually, we met the president on 13th January 2021.
Okay.
When we met him, he showed a gratitude to private schools. He also showed a parental care to the directors of private schools and said, I'm giving you the 2.47 trillion shillings. We were actually so grateful over that. Unfortunately, from that day, when we tried to follow up, when we went to the Minister of Finance, they told us, please, that was a political statement. Get for us that statement in writing.
Okay.
We went to the PPS of the president, Dr. Omona. He told us, okay, it's okay. Let me get you a statement from the president. He gave us a statement, a confirmation statement. We took it to the Minister of Finance. They told us, you are doing private business. How can we come in to support you? We said, we are Ugandans. We are actually impacting this economy. Today, as people are complaining about the meltdown of the economy, they don't know that the schools or the private education has been actually very instrumental in the setup of the economy. We contribute 4% on the national GDP. When you look, over 2.7 trillion shillings is spent in salaries and wages on private teachers in this country. So meaning that all that money which is meant to be in circulation is not in circulation. Almost 2.2 trillion shillings in loans that were borrowed by private schools has not been paid as of now. Meaning that all that money is no longer in circulation. And that's why you see the economy and the very chain, as you look at other sectors that benefit from education, the textiles, the agriculture, are all now losing business because schools are closed, and above all, there is no recovery plan for schools.
But this is how I would look at it. I mean, regardless of whether private or government schools, at the end of the day, we're here to achieve a common goal, which
True.
is to educate the children who
True.
are going to be the next generation of tomorrow, or the
That's
next
a fact.
presidents of tomorrow.
Yeah.
So regardless of whether a teacher is in private school or government schools, at the end of the day, we have a common goal. So I'm thinking the government should do what it has to do, and the private teachers need to do what it ought to do
That's
to make
true.
sure that this common goal is achieved.
Actually, that would be our greatest prayer, that government understands that private schools are not just money-minting organizations. The way, that's actually the greatest perception many people have, especially in government. They believe that private schools are just money-minting machines. They're just making business. Not looking at the fact that private schools are contributing greatly to the welfare of this child, contributing to the psychosocial and mental growth of this child. They are not looking at the employment we give. Actually, we are the biggest formal sector employers in this country. There is no other sector that employs more people than the private education sector in this country. Yeah? Because actually we employ over 350,000 teachers and then over 250,000 support staff or non-teaching staff. Yeah? That is actually translating to over 600,000. We actually more than what the whole government employs in all sectors that make up government. So this means that government would appreciate our role. Would actually come up and say, wow, these schools have been closed for close to 2 years. How can we make them safe to reopen? How can we support them to come up with actually the required standard procedures or the standard operating procedures? How can they meet these? If they have facilitated their government schools, for us actually we are saying, government, give us a loan. Give us a loan. We don't expect actually free money from government. But we are saying, give us a low interest loan. That low interest loan can help us actually recover. Let it be a stimulus to stimulate our education sector.
Among the prerequisites for the reopening of schools, even as we look forward to schools reopening, the State Minister for Education came out and said and emphasized that it's very important for students to get vaccinated, teachers to get vaccinated, even non-teaching staff. And up to date, 69% of the teaching staff have been vaccinated in Uganda with their first jab, while 45 have received 2 of their doses. So the question is, what is the fate of the unvaccinated teachers?
Actually, right now, we are not certain. How many teachers do we have in the sector?
Just to begin with, that is the first problem.
Yes. Because the fact is, we may say only 69% have been vaccinated with the first jab. But the question is, how many teachers are readily available to come back to business? That's the very first question. 2, the policy is non-vaccinated teachers won't be allowed in class. But then, there are 2 fundamental questions we need to ask. 1, in case these teachers don't come back because of the fear of being expelled from school or terminated from school because they're not vaccinated, how shall we recover
from
that situation? How shall we get back to normal? Remember, this country has been with a scarcity of teachers. Actually, we don't have a plenty of teachers, as people are saying. We have a ratio of 1 teacher per 55 children, on average, which is far, far bigger than the international standards. Actually, we are not actually reaching the international standards, because the international standards, it's 1 child per 25 children, one teacher per 25 children. You understand? That's the international standard. But here we are 1 teacher, 55 children. And for some instances, it's 1 teacher per 100 children.
So that means the ratio is not balanced.
Yes.
However,
so now, if these teachers do not come back because they're not vaccinated, the question is, how are we covering up? In my thinking, I believe we would actually encourage these teachers to come. Then we take them to the vaccinating center. Or we make schools vaccination centers. Because it takes 1 day to vaccinate teachers in a school.
Okay.
The way we vaccinate children, you understand? The way we have vaccination programs for children in schools, it would be the same way we vaccinate all teachers. That one would be more effective.
Okay, well, time is not on our best side, but we appreciate the insight that you have brought to this particular conversation, and thank you for being a part of Sunrise at Sea.
Thank you so much.
Well, that winds up the conversation that we had today on the Twitter jabs. I hope you are able to pick a thing or two. I, for one, I stand for, at the end of the day, whether private or government schools, we have one common goal, and that is to educate our children, because they are the generation, they are the presidents, they are the doctors, they are the nurses, they are going to be the teachers of tomorrow. So whether they're going to government schools or private schools, at the end of the day, it all goes back to imparting knowledge. And that winds up what we had for you today on the Twitter jabs. Up next, I am cooking something in the kitchen. Are you looking for a Christmas drink that you want to make for your friends, family, children, bears and booze? Well, up next is that, and you do not want to miss, so don't blink.